Hey guys, Rhonda Draculis here, RK3 Designs, and today we're going to do a really beautiful tropical blue finish that involves both transparent dyes and spray paint. All right, so what I have here is a MDF board, and what I've done is come in and router the edges, except for one edge. I want you guys to see, I always talk about how we router the edges so that the epoxy will flow and you won't get hard edges that have surface tension. So I have purposely left one end of the sample board with a 90-degree edge, and I want you guys to see what I'm talking about how the epoxy doesn't want to flow over. So we will make sure that we hone in on that and you guys can see the difference between a 90-degree edge and a rounded over edge. All right, so first of all, what we're gonna do is we're gonna fog this board. I've prepped it with 2 coats of the Stone Coat Countertop Epoxy Undercoat Paint in white. I love this paint. It allows me to paint and not have to wait overnight for my paint to off gas. I can actually get ready to pour in as little as an hour or 2. All right, so we're gonna start off with fogging. I've got my Rust-Oleum colors. All of them are gloss, I believe, except for Lagoon is actually a satin. So I'm gonna fog a little bit, and what this fogging is gonna do, it's gonna be undertones so that you're not gonna actually see hard lines of what I'm spraying, but it's just gonna give some undertones since the colorants that we're using are all transparent. All right, so I don't want super hard lines. I do wanna make sure I get my edges, and I'll come around to the front. There we go, a little bit darker here. Okay, so that was navy blue. Now we're gonna come in with brilliant blue, and any blues will work. I just really like the fact that I have a really dark navy, and then I have a bright, brilliant color, and they're gonna give me a lot of contrast. So I'm just gonna kind of come in here. Now I don't wanna cover up all my white, because I'm gonna actually use the white in my design. Then my favorite color ever, and those of you that know me, I love Lagoon. All right, same thing. I'm just kind of keeping a striated type of a pattern. And like I said, this is all just background noise. All right, good, I like that. We'll let this dry for 15 or 20 minutes, then we'll mix up our epoxy and we'll go to the next step. Okay, so we've let the spray paint dry, and now we're gonna mix up the epoxy. So I'm gonna just mix up a little bit of the color and a tiny bit of the brown. I don't need too much of it. All right, so I'm really liking these colors because I'm bringing in some of the really pretty blues, but then I'm gonna kind of tone it down with a little bit of brown in there. All right, so the first color we're gonna mix is Color Obsessions Brown Dye Blue. This is really cool stuff. Because it is a transparent dye, no matter how much I put in, it's never gonna become an opaque tint. So I can put 1 drop, which is what I just did, and when I stir that up, I want you guys to see how light that color is. See how light? I mean, it's just barely has a tint to it. All right, now I'm gonna add more and you're gonna see what happens. So now we're gonna, and I know I want this pretty bold. So I'm gonna put 2 or 3 more drops. Actually, I think I put 3 or 4. Now I wanna let you guys see how bold and beautiful that it really gets. Still, it's not an opaque finish. It's still very translucent, but isn't that a gorgeous blue? I love that. And we're actually gonna do a little bit more once we put it on the surface. All right, so that was Bondi blue. And now we're coming in with turquoise seas. Same thing. This is a pretty greenish blue. We use these colors a lot when we do seascapes, as it's color of the water. All right, look at that. Oh my goodness. All right, and then a tiny bit of my all-time favorite brown. This is by Alumilite. It is actually called Opaque Brown Dye, but because I'm just putting a tiny bit in there, it's still gonna have a transparent look. You can still see a little bit in there. It's gonna be a little more opaque than the actual transparent dyes, but because I just use a tiny bit, when I get it on the board, you'll see what I mean. It's a little bit more transparent. All right, so the color obsessions I get from Artist Till Death, and really great products. All right, and then the brown was the Alumilite by Stone Coat Countertop. All right, so here we go. We're gonna take the dark blue one first, the bonsai blue, and we're gonna just lay it down on the surface, and we're just gonna put a little bit. And the reason we're doing this, and we're gonna rub it in with our hand, is because I want this to start to set up before I go to the next step. So I've taken the dark blue and I've just put it over the navy blue spray paint. And I'm really not caring if it's in a line. I'm not caring if I spread it out big. I'm not really worried about that. I just want it as a background for the next color. And because it's going over that dark blue is giving it even more depth. And I'm doing it pretty thin. I'm actually rubbing it in there pretty thin. Okay, so we did our blue. Now we're coming back in with our turquoise sea. The turquoise sea, I'm gonna pour over where we sprayed the lagoon. Same thing. We're just gonna kind of rub it out. Get it on the surface. Okay, so I told you guys I was gonna add a little bit more of the bonsai blue to get it to be richer, but I actually have some turquoise sea left. I'm gonna add some of the blue to the turquoise sea. We're gonna come up with our own color. See what happens. Oh, wow. That's a cool color. We can call it Bonsai Sea. I better call Erica and tell her I came up with a new color. All right. So now I'm going to kind of come in, add this just in a couple of places. Oh yeah, that's pretty. And it's just enough contrast. Yeah, I like that. All right, now a tiny bit, little tiny bit of the brown. Not much. We're gonna use that brown a little bit later and work that out. Almost like finger painting. All right, good. All right, get my edges. All right, here we go. I have the rest of the epoxy, which is clear, left in the bucket. All right, so I'm gonna pour the clear out. I'm gonna do it in spots. And I'm gonna start adding some color. So I'm gonna come in with the navy and with the brilliant blue. Now, what is super important, guys, is when you spray this into the epoxy, don't get it on the board itself. Because if you do, then it's gonna actually stain your board. and we don't want to do that. I'm going to add a little bit of white. And here we go. Now, as we spread this out, you can see how now we're developing layers of color. I don't want to overmix. I actually want to have shades of unmixed or colors that aren't fully mixed. So now we're getting almost a transparent watercolor effect. Be really careful with your whites, guys, because a white can take over your piece really quickly. All right, so now I'm going to add a spot there and a spot here. Come in with my blue, my brilliant blue, a little bit of the lagoon color. I think I'm going to add a little more white to this one. Same thing here. I'm going to add some white. All right. Did I add lagoon? A little bit of lagoon. All right, here we go. Again, you want to make sure that you don't get that on your board when you put that spray paint in your clear epoxy. You don't want that to stain your board. Okay, I'm going to walk around to the front and I'm going to get my edges up front. Okay, so we've got a great background started. And now we're going to start getting a little more detailed by adding a little more color exactly in places that we want it. So most of the time when I lay down veins, I don't like to use the really thick painter's stick. I'm more of a detailed kind of person, so I like the little popsicle sticks. But on this particular finish, I really want to get a lot of color all at once. So I'm going to use a bigger stick. All right, so I'm going to come in with some white, and I'm just going to start adding in some veins. And if you notice how I'm doing my stick, I kind of have it on its side so that my vein is laying down a little bit more color. So what I want to be really careful and not do is when I lay down my epoxy, I don't want to turn and cause, see how I'm moving that epoxy off the board and I'm leaving a really big dry spot? That's where you can end up getting some surface tension. So when you're using these really big sticks, don't push all the way down. Just kind of skip trowel that brush over the top and you won't develop a lot of that, what I call surface tension. Now, some of this white, I'm really liking how it's pooling up like this because you're gonna see what we're gonna do here in just a minute. And it really does cause a neat effect. So I'm just trying to get some white on top of the piece. And now I'm gonna come in with our brown, wherever I did with it, here it is. And we're gonna add just a little more brown to the top layer. And I'm actually gonna run it a little bit between inside of that white. I don't want my brown to take over anything. I just want it to be a very subtle color. So I'm barely mixing it in with my hands. Okay, wow, I really like that. Okay, now I want this to set for just a few minutes because I want the spray paint to continue to react with the epoxy and it kind of causes its own, I guess, effects. So I'm gonna heat it up just a little bit and then let it set. Now I tell you another really fun thing to do to this finish that can take it to the next level is at the very beginning when I was laying down my dyes and rubbing it with my hand. If you'll get some clear and put a lot of diamond dust in there, so you've really got an overload of diamond dust and a little bit of clear, and if you'll go over your white, then As it starts to layer, you'll have big pockets of diamond dust kind of peeky-booing through this. And that's a pro tip, guys. If you really want to bling this up a little bit, add you some diamond dust. All right, so now I'm going to come in with Crater Lake Blue. It's a mica powder by Stone Coat Countertop. I've mixed 1/4 ounce, which is a half of their bag, into 8 ounces of isopropyl alcohol. All right, and this happens to be 99% isopropyl, but you at least want to use 91% or higher. Anything lower than 91% is not going to give you the same effects. All right, so here we go. I'm going to shake it up really well. I want it to come out. I don't want it to be super fine, but I don't want it to be a straight line. All right, so now I'm going to hit. Now, be really careful not to get too much alcohol on your surface. It'll cause this particular finish to really meld and to bleed, and you'll lose a lot of your definition. So on this finish, you don't want to use a lot of heat, and you don't want to use a lot of alcohol on the surface, because I don't want these colors to move too much. I really like how they are right now. I honestly don't think I'm gonna add anything. I'm really liking it, but I have to do something, because then I would disappoint all you guys, because I have to say, you can stop here or you can go to the next level. And if I stop here, then I can't go to the next level. So we're gonna go to the next level. How about that? All right, so I'm gonna add just a tiny bit of Lagoon, because I have a lot of blue in this area right here. I want to add just a little bit more color. I want to break up that blue line right there. So I'm going to add just a little bit of blue here. Not much, just a little bit. I like that. Maybe some right here too. All right. Now I've got that Lagoon on the bottom peeking through, and I also have a little bit of that Lagoon on the top. So I like that. Well, guys, I just don't know a whole lot more I could do to this without getting myself into some trouble. I really like that. Use your hand. I like to put spray paint on my hand when I have material. It helps me to really get a soft blending right there. I like that. Maybe a little bit right here. Okay, check my edges. Now, I wanted to point this out. Look at how well my epoxy is flowing over the edge right here. And look how I'm developing a line of epoxy here, and it's starting to almost develop a little ridge of epoxy. And the reason is that this is the 90-degree angle that I did not router over. So you can see that the epoxy is not flowing over. And if, as this goes, continues to move and the epoxy continues to self-level, what's gonna happen is on this right edge, if I don't help it to break over, it's actually going to cure with a bump on that edge, because it has built up surface tension, and then it's starting to cure, and instead of rolling over and being smooth, it's going to actually harden with that little lip there. So that's why it's super important that if you do have a 90-degree angle, to help that epoxy flow over it, rub it in so that it'll keep flowing, but also as it continues to cure, that you pay attention that you're not developing a really high ledge. I think I'm gonna hit the paint that I put on the top. I'm gonna put a little bit more, oh yes, a little bit more alcohol. There, I like how that caused a little bit of a fracturing there from that spray paint. Okay guys, I think I'm gonna call it a day. I love this finish. Definitely a finish that could go into a really fun beach house, a bathroom that you really want that tropical look. And heck, if you're bold and want a really big, bold statement in your kitchen, this would be a great countertop. I love it. Fast becoming one of my favorite techniques using the translucent dyes. So guys, if you like this video, give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to our channel. That way you get notified when we post videos. Also, check out our website, RK3Designs.com. Sign up for our newsletter for specials, promo codes, free tutorials. And guys, remember, don't be scared, move forward, and be creative.